In 1712, a French spy was sent to Chile on a secret mission. His name was Amédée-François Frézier. He wasn't there to steal gold. He wasn't there to map military secrets. He was there to steal strawberries. And what he brought back would accidentally create the fruit sitting in your kitchen right now. But here's the thing. For 50 years, nobody could figure out how to make his stolen plants produce fruit. The mystery almost destroyed the strawberry forever. Here's what you probably don't know about strawberries. The strawberry you eat today didn't exist 300 years ago. Not in Europe, not in Asia, not anywhere on Earth. Every single strawberry in every supermarket descends from an accident that happened in a French garden in the 1700s. Before that, strawberries were tiny, about the size of your thumbnail, wild, barely worth eating. Ancient Romans grew them, sure. Medieval monks cultivated them, but they were nothing like what we have now. So what changed? How did a berry the size of a pea become the size of your fist? The answer involves international espionage, a 50-year botanical mystery, and one of the most bizarre accidents in food history. And I'm about to prove that everything you thought you knew about this fruit is completely wrong. Let's go back, way back, to 5000 BC. Archaeological digs in Greece reveal something fascinating. Ancient people were gathering wild strawberries, tiny red fruits that grew near the ground. The Greeks called them a gift from the forest. Fast forward to ancient Rome. Around 234 BC, a Roman senator named Cato wrote about strawberries. He described them in his agricultural writings. Small, fragrant, found growing wild throughout the empire. The Romans loved them, but not for eating. They crushed them into beauty masks. They used them as medicine. The Latin name was Fragaria vesca. It literally means fragrant edible. But here's the twist. Even though Romans could engineer aqueducts and roads, they never figured out how to make strawberries bigger. For 2,000 years, strawberries stayed small. Now jump to medieval Europe, the 1300s. The French start doing something interesting. They begin transplanting wildwood strawberries from forests into their gardens. This is the first real cultivation. But the berries, still tiny, still tough, often lacking flavor. But medieval Christians saw something deeper in the strawberry plant. The three-part leaf represented the Holy Trinity. The 5 white petals symbolized Christ's 5 wounds. The red berries, hanging downward, were drops of his blood. Strawberries were carved into church altars, painted into illuminated manuscripts. They represented purity, righteousness, perfection. By the 1500s, the English and Dutch started breeding programs. They wanted bigger fruits. They selected the best wild varieties. Fragaria vesca got slightly larger, but we're still talking berries the size of a marble. Nothing impressive. Then, in 1601, something new appeared in France. In the royal gardens of Paris, a strawberry from North America, Fragaria virginiana. It was brought back by early colonists. French explorer Jacques Cartier described vast patches along the St. Lawrence River. These American berries were better, sweeter, more flavorful, but they still weren't huge. Enter King Louis XIV, the Sun King. He absolutely obsessed over strawberries. His royal gardener, Jean-Baptiste de la Cantigny, planted 1,400 strawberry plants at Versailles. Special frames, perfect soil. The king ate them with absolute delight. Here's the crazy part. His doctor, a man named Fagin, told him not to eat strawberries, medically prohibited them. Louis ignored him completely. He couldn't resist. But even the Sun King's strawberries, still relatively small, the mystery remained. Why couldn't anyone grow a truly giant strawberry? The year is 1711. France is losing the War of the Spanish Succession. Badly. King Louis XIV needs intelligence. He needs to know what the Spanish are doing in South America, their military fortifications, their harbor defenses, their strategic positions. So he sends a spy, Amédée-François Frézier. Not just any spy. Frézier was a military engineer, a mathematician, an expert in fortifications. He posed as a French merchant looking for trading opportunities. For 2 years, he traveled through Chile, sketching Spanish forts, counting soldiers, gathering secrets. But Frézier had another passion, botany, and one day, in the coastal city of Concepcion, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. Strawberries, but not like any strawberry he'd ever seen in Europe. These were massive. He wrote in his journal, as big as a walnut, and sometimes as a hen's egg. Think about that. A strawberry the size of an egg. In Europe, strawberries were the size of your pinky fingernail. These Chilean berries were 15 times larger, maybe 20. The locals called them frutillas. They grew them in entire fields. They sold them at markets. They were whitish-red in color, less delicate in flavor than European varieties. But their size? Unbelievable. Frézier made a decision. He would bring these strawberries back to France. He carefully selected 5 plants, healthy specimens with strong runners. In 1714, he boarded a ship home. But here's the problem. The voyage from Chile to France took 6 months. By sea, around Cape Horn, through storms, through tropical heat. These plants needed fresh water, lots of it. Frézier made a deal. He promised 2 plants to the ship's superintendent of cargo. In exchange, water for all 5 plants, every day, for 6 months. It worked. All 5 plants survived. When he arrived in France, Frézier distributed them strategically. One went to his military superior at Brest. One went to Antoine de Jussieu, head of the Royal Gardens in Paris. Frézier kept the last one for himself. Jussieu was thrilled. He immediately sent cuttings to botanists across Europe. Strawberries, you see, reproduce asexually. One plant creates identical clones through runners. Soon, Chilean strawberry plants were growing in gardens from France to England to Holland. But then, disaster. None of them produced fruit. Not one berry. Not anywhere. For 50 years, the Chilean strawberry remained a botanical mystery. Beautiful plants, lush leaves, white flowers, but zero fruit. Botanists were baffled. What was wrong? Some thought the soil was incorrect. Others blamed the climate. Maybe Chilean strawberries needed special growing conditions. Maybe they required a mineral found only in South American soil. Nobody knew. Meanwhile, back in France, something interesting was happening. Remember those Virginia strawberries from North America? The ones Jacques Cartier found? They were still being grown, still producing decent-sized berries, still popular in French gardens. But here's where it gets fascinating. Most strawberry species have male and female flowers on the same plant. They're called perfect flowers. They self-pollinate easily. But the Chilean strawberry? It had mostly female flowers. The plants Frézier brought back? All female. No male flowers. No pollination. No fruit. For 50 years, European gardeners were trying to grow berries from an all-female species. It's like trying to hatch eggs with only hens. Impossible. Then, in 1750, something remarkable happened in Brittany, France, a region on the Atlantic coast. Farmers there had been growing both Chilean and Virginia strawberries in the same gardens, side by side, and suddenly, massive strawberries appeared, huge fruits, combining the size of the Chilean variety with the sweetness of the Virginia variety. It was an accident, a spontaneous hybrid. The Virginia strawberries had male flowers. They pollinated the female Chilean flowers. Nature did what 50 years of frustrated botanists couldn't. The new hybrid was named Fragaria ananassa. The name means pineapple strawberry. Why? Because people thought it tasted like pineapple. News spread fast. Farmers in Brest started producing so many strawberries that Frézier himself, now an old man, took notice. He wrote in 1765, "This city and its vicinity are so well provided with strawberries that one finds them for sale at the market." But one person would cement the strawberries' place in history, Antoine Nicolas Duchesne. He was 17 years old. In 1764, young Duchesne did something incredible. He presented King Louis XV, grandson of strawberry-loving Louis XIV, with a pot of Chilean strawberries. But these berries actually had fruit, large, beautiful, perfect. The king was so impressed, he ordered a royal illustrator to paint them. Then Louis XV gave Duchesne funding, a massive project. Collect every known strawberry species in Europe, bring them to Versailles, study them, breed them. Duchesne became obsessed. He documented 119 varieties. He conducted crossing experiments. He wrote detailed botanical treatises. His work was so advanced that Charles Darwin later referenced it in On the Origin of Species. Yes, that Darwin. But even Duchesne had problems. His Chilean strawberries often produced sterile fruit. He struggled to create consistent crops. The real breakthrough? It wasn't happening in royal gardens. It was happening in common fields. Farmers in Brest discovered something crucial. Plant Chilean, Virginia, and musky European strawberries together, all three species. The genetic diversity created superior offspring, bigger, sweeter, more reliable. By the late 1700s, the modern strawberry was born. Every cultivated strawberry you've ever eaten, it descends from that accidental crossing in France, every single one. Now here's where the story gets really interesting. This new strawberry? It wasn't like other fruits. It was a genetic monster, in the best way possible. Most fruits are diploid, 2 sets of chromosomes. Humans? Diploid. Dogs? Diploid. Apples? Diploid. But the garden strawberry, it's octoploid. That means 8 sets of chromosomes, 56 chromosomes total. It's one of the most complex genomes in the plant kingdom. Why does this matter? Because it created massive genetic diversity. Each strawberry plant contains genes from multiple wild species: Chilean beech strawberries, Virginia woodland strawberries, European alpine strawberries, all mixed together. This made breeding both incredibly difficult and incredibly rewarding. Breeders in England led the charge. Throughout the 1800s, they selected plants with desirable traits: larger size, better flavor, firmer texture, longer shelf life, disease resistance. But there was a dark side. As breeders focused on commercial traits, genetic diversity started narrowing. Certain chromosomal regions showed drops in nucleotide diversity. This is called a genetic bottleneck. By the early 1900s, most commercial strawberries descended from a relatively small number of parent plants. This made them vulnerable. One disease, one pest, one climate change could wipe out entire crops. Enter the University of California. In the mid-1900s, UC Davis started an ambitious breeding program. They collected wild strawberry species from around the world. They preserved genetic diversity. They created varieties specifically for California's climate. The University of Florida did the same. They bred strawberries that could handle heat and humidity, that could fruit in winter, that could be picked by machines without bruising. These programs changed everything. California became the strawberry capital of America. Florida became the winter strawberry supplier. New varieties exploded: Chandler, Camarosa, Albion, Festival, each bred for specific conditions. But controversy erupted. As strawberries became a global commodity, labor issues emerged. Strawberries require hand-picking. You can't mechanically harvest them without damage. This meant massive labor forces, seasonal workers, often underpaid, often exploited. Environmental concerns followed. Strawberries are heavily sprayed with pesticides. They consistently rank on the dirty dozen list of most contaminated produce. Chemical runoff affects waterways. Soil degradation becomes a problem. Then genetic modification entered the conversation. Scientists proposed creating GMO strawberries: longer shelf life, resistance to diseases like verticillium wilt, enhanced nutritional content. But public backlash was fierce. Consumers wanted natural strawberries. Everything changed when China entered the game. In the 1990s, China started massive strawberry production. They used the same varieties, developed in California and Europe, but their scale? Unprecedented. By the early 2000s, China was producing more strawberries than the rest of the world combined. In 2023, China grew 4.21 billion kilograms of strawberries. That's over 40% of global production. The United States, 1.25 billion kilograms. Turkey, 676 million kilograms. Egypt, 731 million kilograms. But China? Absolutely dominant. This created a global strawberry economy. Year-round availability. Prices dropped. Strawberries went from luxury fruit to everyday grocery item. But it also raised questions. What about local varieties? What about heirloom species? What about the genetic diversity that made strawberries successful in the first place? Today, the strawberry is one of the youngest domesticated crops on Earth, only 275 years old. Compare that to wheat. Wheat has been cultivated for 10,000 years. Strawberries? A baby in agricultural terms. Yet strawberries have become the fourth most valuable fruit crop globally, behind only bananas, apples, and grapes. Annual global production exceeds 15.87 billion kilograms. The market is worth tens of billions of dollars. And it all traces back to that accidental crossing in France, to 5 Chilean strawberry plants that survived a 6-month voyage, to a 17-year-old genius who presented fruit to a king, to farmers in Brest who planted different species together. But modern breeding hasn't stopped. Scientists are now using genomic sequencing to understand strawberry genetics at the molecular level. They're identifying specific genes for sweetness, for color, for disease resistance. They're creating precision-bred varieties without genetic modification. The University of California and University of Florida continue developing new cultivars. Each year, new varieties are released, each optimized for specific growing conditions, each preserving that massive octoploid genetic diversity. And consumers are rediscovering heritage varieties. Small-scale farmers are growing alpine strawberries, musk strawberries, wild woodland species, the tiny berries that medieval monks cultivated. They command premium prices at farmers' markets. People want to taste history. So let's talk about what you've learned. Here are the mind-blowing facts. First, the strawberry you eat didn't exist before 1750. Every single modern strawberry descends from one accidental hybrid in France. Second, that hybrid came from a spy mission. A French military engineer stole plants from Chile while gathering intelligence for King Louis XIV. Without espionage, you wouldn't have strawberries. Third, for 50 years, nobody could make Chilean strawberries produce fruit. The mystery paralyzed European botanists. The solution? Pure accident. Planting 2 species next to each other. Fourth, strawberries have 8 sets of chromosomes, 56 chromosomes total. Humans have 46. Strawberries are genetically more complex than you are. Fifth, China produces more strawberries than the next 5 countries combined. 4.21 billion kilograms in 2023. That's 40% of Earth's strawberries from one nation. Sixth, medieval Christians saw strawberries as symbols of Christ's blood and the Holy Trinity. They carved them into church altars. They represented purity and righteousness. Seventh, King Louis XIV ate strawberries despite his doctor's medical prohibition. Royal gardens at Versailles held 1,400 strawberry plants just for him. Eighth, ancient Romans used strawberries for beauty masks and medicine, not primarily for eating. The practice lasted centuries. Ninth, a 17-year-old named Antoine Nicolas Duchesne became the world's leading strawberry expert. His work was cited by Charles Darwin in On the Origin of Species. 10th, wild strawberries are still tiny, about the size of your thumbnail. All the breeding work of the last 275 years created the large berries we know today. The next time you bite into a strawberry, remember, you're tasting the result of international espionage, accidental pollination, 3 centuries of selective breeding, and one of the most unlikely agricultural success stories in human history. From Roman beauty masks, to medieval altar carvings, to a king's forbidden fruit, to a spy's stolen plants, to an accidental hybrid in a French garden. The strawberry traveled an impossible path to your plate. So here's my question for you. Which food's history should we uncover next? Chocolate? Coffee? The tomato? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Let me know what food mystery you want solved. Because every fruit has a story. Every vegetable has secrets. And some of those secrets, they involve spies, kings, and accidents that changed the world forever.